Elite Facts presents
8 things you didn't know about flight attendants.
8.
Appearance is essential. Yes, we're starting off with something shallow here, but it's apparently a major requirement when applying for a job as a flight attendant. Now, yes, when it comes to most jobs, there's always a strict dress code. Whether it's an employee uniform at McDonald's, a suit and tie, which is the absolute worst during the summer, or even the orange vest that road workers have to wear, all jobs have some kind of uniform. When it comes to air travel, though, it's much stricter. Consider the fact that flight attendants not only have standard uniforms, but many, especially in the Middle East and Asia, where appearance is everything, are also given strict rules on how they can keep color and style their hair and makeup. Nails must also be painted a certain way, and the wearing of jewelry kept to a standard minimum. The reason for this, much like with most jobs, is so that it reflects well on the company. Plus, there's the fact that they have to consider what might cause offense to those in that region.
7.
Weight is also essential. Yes, on the surface, this sounds extremely shallow and shouldn't be something required by any employer, but there is good reason for it. Despite what you may have thought, this isn't about a person's appearance, but it is actually more about their health. Weight and body fat ratios set by airlines are something that aspiring flight attendants must adhere to. Everyone knows that people tend to eat worse when traveling. The reality is that flight attendants are weighed once a year and must have a healthy BMI, not just for their own well-being, but for the safety of those on the flight as well, as they need to be in top shape to help if things happen to go awry, including the potential need for self-defense, which we'll go over next.
6.
They're trained in many different things for different situations. On a flight, anything can happen. 2 of the most common things to happen are babies being born and disgruntled passengers causing a ruckus. Now, who has to deal with these 2 things? Well, the flight attendants, of course, although air marshals can also deal with disgruntled passengers if things truly get out of hand. It is a must that flight attendants know how to deal with delivering babies mid-flight and have some form of knowledge about hand-to-hand combat in order to deal with passengers who overstep their boundaries. As we've said, anything can happen mid-flight.
5.
They're not just there to serve food and drinks. Despite what you may think, flight attendants aren't just waitresses in the sky. In fact, that couldn't be further from the truth. Now, sure, that's part of the gig, but the next time you're on a plane, try to keep in mind that the real reason a flight attendant is on board is to keep you safe. Don't annoy the crap out of them because your pillow smells funny or your water is a little on the warm side. Imagine how stressed out they must get having to babysit a bunch of jet-lagged, cranky, and often rude passengers while also having to make sure that they're safe. Well, it sucks. They're happy enough to help you by serving you your double vodkas and soft drinks, but don't abuse that service by being condescending and needy. Just be respectful and patient. They've got a stressful enough time as it is.
4.
If the plane door is open, they're not getting paid. Imagine that. One thing goes wrong and they don't get paid for the entire day. If that was something put in place by most businesses, there'd either be more job opportunities because of people leaving their jobs, or everyone would be efficient to the point where they'd succumb to burnout much more quickly. Before we go into that, though, we need to address the fact that flight attendants aren't paid hourly. They're in fact paid for their time spent while the plane is in motion and in flight. They're not paid for guiding passengers to their seats and helping out with luggage before the flight, and they're not paid for helping passengers leave after the plane has landed. But in addition to those times when the plane is in motion where they're paid for their jobs, they also have to fulfill their part of the contract by helping passengers before and after the flight. We know, it's strange how it works. As you can probably imagine, when it comes to air travel, not everything always goes according to plan. Flight delays, cancellations, and layovers affect flight attendants just as much as they do passengers, maybe even more so. So next time you decide to screech in the face of a flight attendant, just remember that because of those delays, they're not going to get paid for the day. So the last thing they need is someone screaming at them. They've lost more than what you have at this point. You may have lost time, but they've lost time and money. Now, although it may seem like it, airlines aren't completely heartless. From the time the flight attendants sign in at the airport until the time the plane taxis back into the gate at their home base, they get an expense allowance of $1.50 an hour. It's certainly not much, but it helps pay the rent.
3,
They could lose their job for the most absurd of reasons. So as if not getting paid for a day's work for a multitude of reasons isn't bad enough, how about the fact that flight attendants could lose their job for any number of absurd reasons? If you're a newbie, all we can say is good luck, because multiple airlines incorporate a strict 6-month probation period. You mess up once and you're out. Is it really that strict though? Surely minor mistakes are acceptable, right? No. One particular flight attendant recounted a time when one of her colleagues was fired for simply wearing her sweater uniform around her waist when she wasn't even on the clock. Now, we guess that sort of goes against the uniform dress code and could tarnish the image of the airline, so there is at least some validity to that firing, although it still seems to us to be extremely harsh. And let's say you're sick but decide to go to work anyway. Well, if you're a flight attendant, you may find yourself looking for a new job. While most employers would love for their employees to still come into work despite being under the weather, airlines simply want the flight attendants to stay home, as they could cause passengers to get ill as well, which doesn't look good on the airline as a whole. Hell, even if they're off duty and they're flying as passengers with another airline while they're ill, that still counts as grounds for immediate dismissal. So when you're a sick flight attendant, you gotta take the day off. Let's face it, missing a day's pay is better than having to look for a new job.
2,
Diet Coke is the bane of their existence. We're not kidding. This is a legitimate problem that a flight attendant deals with on a regular basis. If you ask for a Diet Coke, odds are the flight attendant will most likely hate your guts, and with good reason. They're in a hurry to get all the cranky passengers served in order to keep the peace, and when pouring out a soft drink for a passenger, out of all the available beverages on the flight, Diet Coke takes the most time to pour, as the fizz takes a long time to settle at 35,000 feet. In the time it takes to settle, the flight attendant could have served another 2 passengers their beverages, so long as those also weren't Diet Cokes. All we know is that if you order a Diet Coke, make sure to thank your flight attendant. A thank you can go a long way.
1,
They're the first line of defense against human trafficking. Needless to say, flight attendants are the unsung heroes of the world. We've mentioned how they're the people who help when a pregnant passenger goes into labor. We've covered how they need to know hand-to-hand combat in case of any hostile passengers. And we've talked about how they have to go to the trouble of pouring you a Diet Coke that takes them an annoyingly extra bit of time. But did you know that they are the first line of defense when it comes to human trafficking? It's true. For example, take Sandra Fiorini, an American Airlines flight attendant who had to help with dealing with a human trafficker on a mid-air flight back in 2007. She testified to Congress about an 18-year-old male passenger who she observed carrying a newborn baby with its umbilical cord still attached. No mother in sight, just 1 bottle of milk and 2 diapers stuck in his pocket for the 6-hour flight. Now, obviously, this looked instantly suspicious to her. When Fiorini reported her suspicions to the authorities, she got no response. So in 2011, Fiorini began working with Deborah Sigmund, founder of the organization Innocence at Risk, to train airline employees on what to look for and who to call should they spot something suspicious like that. In 2011, this translated into hundreds of flight attendants from different airlines volunteering to help police at the Super Bowl, a hotbed for human trafficking. So it just goes to show that flight attendants aren't just there to serve you awful airplane meals and vodka. They really do so much more. And that's our list. Did we leave any out that you know about? Well, let us know in the comments section below. Please remember to subscribe and tap the bell button so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. Thanks for watching.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more elite facts.